Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today we are continuing up the Japanese heavy line with the Type 95, the tier 4 heavy. Now it's a little bit unusual because it's tier 4 but it only plays up to tier 5, so it gets preferential matchmaking, a bit like the, I think the DW2, and I can't remember if the B1 gets that as well, but I'm pretty sure the DW2 does. Now it's obviously a continuation from the Type 91 and looks very, very similar. And it does have similar problems with the gun depression over that machine gun turret on the front, although not as bad as on the Type 91 because the actual turret is lower down, so it's not too savage. Basic armour figures are 35 on the front, 30 on the sides and 25 on the rear, and there is only one turret for this, and that's 30 on the front and then 25 for the sides and the rear as well. And it's not a bad little tank really. We'll start off by having a quick look at, well, let's have a look at the packages first. So when you first get it, you've got the 7cm gun Type 94, and if I remember rightly, and we'll just go and check to make sure I do, that is one of the guns on the Type 91, so you will be very familiar with that gun, you know, already been through the Type 91. Now you will have to grind out, I think, for the tracks, possibly the engine as well, but I'm not quite sure. I can't quite remember now, to be honest. But the 7.5cm tank gun Type 99 is actually on the medium tank line as well, so if you've gone so far down the medium tank line already, you can make this line a bit cheaper for you. The OI Experimental also uses a 7.5cm gun. I think it's the tank gun Type 5, which is on the mediums as well, so that was free as soon as I'd unlocked, I think it was the tracks, and then I could have just basically put that one straight on. So if you've already been down the Japanese medium line, it will make these a bit cheaper for you. So packages, well, so first of all the upgrade is the engine and the tracks. Now traverse speed is a little bit slow at 30 degrees, although it's not too bad. It's slower than the DW2, slightly better than the, what's the other one, the B1, the French tier 4 heavy. And turret traverse is 32, which is, I think that's a lot slower than the DW2, and it's about the same as the B1, so it's not bad, it's about average. Now I'm going to not talk about the 7cm, like I say, because we covered that in the Type 91 review and you'll be familiar with that one anyway. So we'll just talk about the 7.5cm. Well, it gets a decent rate of fire at 18.18 rounds a minute, with not bad penetration at 70. Could be better though, with 110 damage. You get 100 penetration on your premium ammunition, again with 110 damage, and your HE shells are 38 and 175. Aiming time and accuracy do leave a little to be desired though, at 2.3 and 0.4 respectively, but it's not too bad. Now view range is 340, which I think is about average for tier 4. Some of the Japanese tanks do seem to have slightly better than average view range, but not by much. And signal range is quite poor at 425, so sometimes you do struggle to keep in touch with the rest of your team. Now shell costs 52 for your standard armor piercing, 2,400 for your premium ammunition, which are heat, and your high explosive are 60 per shell. Equipment wise, I've not personally put any on it because, well, I wasn't in it for long enough to warrant spending that much money on it, but I'd say you want to play a medium support role. I would have said maybe keep it at medium range. That 35mm will bounce a few at medium range, but you've got to be careful, but you can angle it and get away with it. The only thing that's the problem with medium range is obviously your accuracy isn't particularly good, but I'd possibly go with something like the gun rammer, maybe a gun lane drive, and either vents or maybe some sort of optics to keep yourself sort of out spotting your enemy so you can see them first. Now it does seem to have quite a slow shell velocity as well with this gun, so that's something to bear in mind, especially when you're going for moving targets. Again, crew skills, well, I wasn't really in it long enough. This crew are coming out of this tank when this review's done, and I'll be getting rid of it, so I mean, you could really just put your standard sort of heavy tank skills on it, you know, sixth sense, repairs, that sort of stuff, if you were going to keep a crew for it. But I'm just reviewing it as you're going up the line and assuming you're going to get rid of this and sort of maybe start keeping the OI experimental, that sort of thing. I think that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, let's have a look at the modules. Well, you've got a 3.3 second reload time, which isn't too bad. A little on the long side, but you do have a fairly high damage gun for the tier. Concealment is pretty poor at 0.10, and moving is awful at 0.05. Now, the engine, you get quite a poor power to weight ratio of 10.02 horsepower per ton, so it is a bit sluggish. This, you will struggle going up hills, and you will notice it, and sometimes I did get a bit frustrated with the lack of power in it, to be honest. Quite a slow forward speed as well at 22 kilometers an hour, and quite a slow reverse speed on top of that at 10 kilometers an hour. Obviously, there's your gun. Tracks, quite a big gap through the tracks, so do bear that in mind. Whereas on a lot of other tanks, your tracks, you can get lucky and they can eat a few shots from the side. These are less likely because there is such a huge gap in between them. Small turret on top, and you do have good gun depression, so do work the ridge lines. That's what Japanese tanks seem to be quite good at with these early ones. The gun depression is quite good, but do remember about that machine gun turret on the front. Radio is just in the front side of the turret, which I think is the same place as the Type 91. And again, two big ammo blocks just at the front, which seems to be a thing with the Japanese tanks. They seem to be up in those shoulders of the hull almost on, well, most of the ones that I've seen so far. Crew members, you've got two in the front, driver and not entirely sure, maybe radio operator, I don't know. You've got two in the top, one of which will be the commander and the gunner, and you actually have somebody sat in the back turret as well again. So I can't remember if that was on the Type 91 as well, but anyway, so you do have somebody sat in the back. Now, armour wise, there's not a great deal to talk about. You've got 1 to 20, which is basically all the tops, the top deck. Also, those sloped bits of the upper part of the hull are quite thin as well. 21 to 30, which is your machine gun turret on the front, which is the side of your tanks. Your upper plate, the slope part, that is, the sloped part of your lower plate, and around your turret, and that rear machine gun turret as well. And we've already spoken about this sort of turret. So these values, they are quite vague, I find. And then the front of it, which is your 35, is basically just the flat parts. Now, like I say, you can angle it quite well, but most of the time, if you are angled and people are struggling to bounce, they can generally penetrate that machine gun turret on the front. So do be aware of that, and I would say that working the ridge lines and keeping it medium range is probably the best way to survive in this. Anyway, I think I've covered everything in the garage. There's not really a great deal to tell about these low tier tanks. Like I say, you're not really in them for that long. So I think enough of me rambling on in the garage. Let's get into a few replays and see how it actually handles. Right, so here we are for the first of the replays. It's I think this is my first time on Heilbronn actually. This one, it's from a few, well, about a week or so ago I think possibly. Tier 4 match. And most of the time that's what you'll be in this, with it having the preferential matchmaking. You will find yourself more often than not top tier, which is quite nice. Like I said, I didn't spend too much time in this, and this is when I was doing the moving on up Japanese heavies, and yeah, I basically just recorded a couple of games that I had in it while I was grinding my way through it, and that was it really. And I'm not going to do the moving on up blah blah blah. I am going to start tying these tech tree tanks in together though. So obviously this one is called Japanese Heavies Type 95, the next one will be Japanese Heavies OI Experimental, so I can tie them all together so that it hopefully it'll be a bit easy for you guys to find. And when I've done enough of these tech tree ones, I'll probably put them all in playlists for British tanks, Japanese tanks, etc. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, this is the first, like I say, first time I'd been on Heilbronn. I had no idea where I was going. I nearly drove off a cliff, and I'm just basically having a look around. But it does seem to be a fairly decent vantage point to shoot from. So, see what I mean about fairly slow velocity? You've got to really lead your targets with this gun. And I can't remember if I'm firing heat. This could actually be the stock gun. or it could be the worse off 7 centimetre. I'm not entirely sure now. I've gone back to armour piercing, so I think I might have just swapped to heat because I didn't pen. I'm not entirely sure. I think this might actually be the better of the two guns. Right, I'm going to back off a little bit. Like I say, I have no idea where I'm going, and I didn't actually get to see too much of the map. I don't think I ended up moving too far from here. Now we've got a friendly Covenant up that way. But you could see, I mean, you could see the good gun depression when I was shooting down off that hill towards that Panzer III, I think it was. Managed to put a good one through the side of the M3 Lee. And another one for 105. And he's very kindly given us his bum, so there we go. Have a high, well, I say high velocity, low velocity armor piercing shell up your backside. Right. Now, who's next? And you know, it is quite pleasant having a gun like this on a little low tier heavy. It almost reminds me of a little baby howitzer in a way. And you can see that gun depression. Now you can see it's not as bad over this mini turret as it is on the Type 91. And I managed to put one through the front of the T28. I'm surprised that penned actually, with the angle that he was at. But again, you can see how sort of painfully slow it is. Now, we've got another M3 Lee, straight through the front of him. I'm going to take out the Marder because he's got the most dangerous gun out of those guys. My driver's dead though. Managed to finish off the T28, and now there's just the M3 Lee to keep an eye on. There he is, I can see that really great useless turret on top of his tank. And he's managed to dodge back before I can get another shell into him. Don't know if one more will finish him off. It might take two. No, one more did it. And I think that was a slightly high roll, possibly. Now I've got the SAU 40, and again these can have a nasty gun on them, but they have got a dirty, great, stupid turret on the top, machine gun turret, which is quite a prominent weak spot and very difficult to hide. And he puts one through the front of mine. Am I going to reload first? Yep. And I took a bounce from something, but a hit from something as well, it looked like then. And artillery comes a call in. So that's me done for that match. We'll skip to the end and see how it is. So, unfortunately, that was a defeat, I'm afraid. But it was a nice amount of XP. I think I did get some from Ops. Just over 1,000 damage done, which could have been slightly better, but 5 kills, and in fact no, I think, yeah, just over 1,000 at tier 4, it's not too savage. Top of the table with that one, but like I say, it was a defeat, but a nice amount of XP with it, although I did get, you know, some of that from Ops, but XP is XP, and it got me out of that tank that little bit quicker. Right, got another replay coming up for you now, when these are done, and it's another tier 4 match. Obviously, like I say, you get into a lot of these, and we're on Muravanka, I want to say, and yes, it is Muravanka, standard battle, and I think I'm going to head towards the Magic Forest and see what's going on over that way, but again, quite painfully slow. Which again, why it was a nice surprise when I got to the OI Experimental. I'd driven this, which is slow. I'd driven the Kaiju, which is slow. And then I got in the OI Experimental, and it felt like I was driving a Ferrari. Obviously, you know, there are a lot faster tanks, but after this and the Kaiju, it did feel very, very quick. Right, there's not much of a push from our team towards the forest. There's the M5 Stuart, who's really gone quite out on a limb there actually. There's no way I'd be able to back him up if he ran into trouble. And not paying attention, a little Panzer 1C has come out and started peppering me. But at that range, I think he'd struggled to pen anyway, and indeed he was bouncing. But he is going after that Stuart now. And I don't think I'm going to be quick enough to get there to help him. There's a few Type 95s in this match. Like I say, I think this was just after the Heavies had come on. So you did see quite a few of them in each match. And there's the enemy Stuart. Can I get a shot at him? No. I've not got enough room to lead him at that. So I'm going to keep an eye on them. I'm not getting any attention over here so far, so I can just sneak around a bit more. And that Stuart pops out, and I think, well, I don't know, he's either making a suicide run on the cap or he's going for RT. But I managed to track him, and then the next one finishes him off. Now, there's DW2 coming over that ridge. I have to keep an eye on him. He can damage me, I can damage him. So, hopefully, I'll get the first couple of shots in without him being able to return fire. Yeah, he knows there's something over here, but he's not seen me. There we go, now I'm spotted. One more through him. Oh, and he bounced. That was pleasant. I am angled, but I'm also bouncing off him now. Go for the lower plate. And it's 50-50 still, but 50-50 was just enough. Now we're getting a bit more attention in the forest. There's an enemy T-28. Now, yes, I was expecting him to bob back up again, but he broke his rhythm. And, yeah, it just flew past him. Now, where's he going? He's either going to try and help his teammates, or he's going to try and flank around us. So I'm going to go up this ridge, and from here I can put a shot into the enemy Type 95 and take him out. Now I don't want to come up against the Stug. He could make a mess of me quite quickly, but that little Panzer 1C is going to be a difficult target to hit at this range, especially with this gun. He's just rammed our Stuart and stopped himself, and still can't hit him. Lead a bit more. No. No, completely fruitless. Now, where's that Stuart just disappeared to? I'll keep an eye on him. I don't want him at my flank. There he is. He's not seen me though, and I can put one into the back of his tank and I damage his engine. So that's him done for. One more shot and he's a goner. But now I've been spotted, so I need to drop down off this hill into the bottom and try and use my gun depression coming up out of here to try and spot anything and hit it if I can. Now, have you seen as well, the Boilermaker is coming on November the 1st, which is another tank from the Rollout comic books, and it's the Firefly, the one with all the tracks all over it, which I think Wargaming have said will act as spaced or extra armour. I can't remember if they said spaced or extra, but it does act as some form of additional armour, which is quite cool. So that's coming on the 1st, according to the news feed, which is a premium Firefly. And I quite liked the Firefly. I think I ended up getting rid of it to fund another purchase of a tank that I hated and got rid of, and just haven't gone back up that line yet. The other British tank destroyers, not the ATs, the newer ones. I just didn't care for them, and I wish I'd have got the Firefly back, and I've just not got round to it yet. So now there's this nice fancy new Firefly coming on. I think I might have to treat myself, pick one up, and of course I will review it for you guys so that you'll know whether you want to spend your money on it or not. And it looks like as well that the Snakebite is coming back on, because on the same day you can buy the Boilermaker on its own, or you can buy it in an ultimate bundle with the Snakebite and the Crafts Panther. So those of you who haven't unlocked the Crafts Panther or from the op, or haven't bought it yet, but you're still umming and ahhing about it, that might be one to sort of wait for, especially if you haven't got the Snakebite as well. Anyway, that was a nice victory, a good amount of XP, but again some from ops. Second class second class mastery, sniper and a high caliber with again just over 1,000 damage done. So not too bad, another 5 kills, which is nice. But anyway, there you go, that's the Type 95. Bit of a shorter review, but these tier 4s, they're not as exciting to watch as some of the higher tiers. So, but there you go. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been informative, and I'll be back tomorrow with another video. And as always, take care out there, and I will catch you next time. See you later.